Over the past few weeks, Crimson Desert had quite a bumpy journey, and it's not because it is a bad game, no, not in the slightest. It's because the main Western media outlets do not want to see it win and want to keep their relevance. It doesn't matter how many patches they put out, it doesn't matter they fixed what everyone was crying about, it doesn't matter they sold over 4 million copies and the public reception was more than great, it just doesn't matter. They said no matter how much they patched the game, they still could not fix the biggest problem, which is the story. And I get it, we get it, they get it. While the story is far from good, how can this outweigh everything else? It feels like they evaluate the game about everything but what the game is about. Current media outlets reviewing games are more of what surrounds the game, the politics, the inclusion of certain characters, the message, and not what actually makes a game. Sure, there are things we collectively agree and are bad in the game. Sure, there are things that we don't like in the game, but there are things that we don't like in every game. Hell, there's things that you don't like even about your favorite people, and frankly now I'm finding a lot of things that I don't like about gaming media outlets. Think about what players have been saying for years now, and not in marketing surveys, not in shareholder calls, but in comments, in forums, in reviews, and in refund pages. We just want a complete game, no live service grinding, no seasonal resets, no roadmap stretching content over 3 years. And Crimson Desert checks every single one of those boxes. It's just a finished experience from the start. And this has become unique in today's standards when even single-player games can be pay to win. Remember when Ubisoft added pay for convenience packs in the Assassin's Creed series? We were afraid when we heard Pearl Abyss is doing a single-player game because we thought it was going to be pay to win, as we frankly know very well how the monetization in Black Desert Online is, and yet here we are. They listened to what gamers said, what they wanted, delivered the finished experience, and players loved it. But the critics and the Western companies are pushing back on this. They don't want it to succeed. They don't want to see a game with a budget of 140 million do so well, so they push the narrative. It's boring, it's empty, it's beyond repair, it's bad, it's doing too much, it's trying to be everything else, because these Eastern companies are showing everyone that it's possible to make something new, something bold, with flaws that people will still love and enjoy, and without absurd budgets or monetization. And let's not forget that Where Winds Meet had a similar fate. It also got a 6, and yet public reception was more than amazing, also keeping in mind that it was a free-to-play game. Admittedly, they had a cash shop, but it is to be expected when you put out a game like that for free. It goes to show the level of bias we are facing when we compare this with the big games that flopped and just straight out failed when it came to public reception, like Concord, High Guard, Dragon Age, The Veil Guard, underperforming Sea of Thieves, the quadruple A game from Ubisoft which failed drastically, all of them highly praised by Western media. So why the pushback? Because logically, if we think about it, Crimson Desert should be a guaranteed win. It aligns perfectly with what players say they want. So why does it feel like there's resistance? Why the skepticism? Why the hesitation? Because Crimson Desert doesn't just succeed or fail on its own. It sets a precedent. If it wins, which it definitely did, it proves that single player still dominates. It proves monetization isn't necessary for success. And it proves players will show up for complete experiences. And that creates a problem for these companies because suddenly $70 and finished games look worse. Live service excuses sound weaker. We'll fix it later stops working because everyone will know it's an excuse and it can be done. Let alone when Pearl Abyss came with 5 major patches in maybe 2 weeks. In 2 weeks they addressed almost everything that the players complained about. So tell me, when have you seen any other AAA studio or a company that did this recently with a new AAA game out there? It raises the standard. The industry doesn't just fear failure, it fears comparison, because if one game delivers everything up front, then every other game just doesn't get exposed. Because the Western market has aligned with this sort of standard blueprint of how to release a game, and it got even more predatory as years passed by, and now the Eastern market showed everyone, hey, it can work like this as well, you don't need to do that. Modern gaming doesn't run on great games anymore, it runs on engagement loops, battle passes, daily quests, microtransactions. Games aren't designed to be finished anymore, they're designed to just trap you there forever. And that's where Crimson Desert becomes dangerous, because if it succeeds, which it did, it proves something the industry does not want proven. You don't need live service to dominate. And think about it, if Crimson Desert explodes, which it did, why would players tolerate broken live service launches? Why grind battle passes when you can get the full experience up front? And why accept unfinished games at the full price? It threatens the entire model. Companies don't just sell games anymore, they sell time. And Crimson Desert, it just gives you that time back to the player, and that's a problem. And it just boggles my mind how Marathon is hailed at being amazing, when I'm sorry to say this, I do like and play Marathon as well from time to time, but Marathon is just a reskin of any other shooter or extraction shooter out there. It does not innovate with anything new besides its own lore and quirky graphics, when even the reviewers say that there's a low amount of content, classes we've seen there's classes that we've seen before and are better done in any other games. I mean, just how can you not see the bias? Because this is where it gets interesting. Look at how some outlets treat ambitious games and how they treated Crimson Desert as well. If it's overhyped, then they try to tear them down. They focus on the flaws and they ignore the innovation. They push the narrative before release, which frankly I'm going to say they did, taking into account that Marathon was reviewed 25 days later. This is becoming a pattern, or maybe already is a pattern, and I'm just noticing this now. And it's very infuriating. At this point, Crimson Desert isn't just another game, it's a statement of what gamers actually want, and we want complete experiences, deep systems, immersion over monetization. Yet every studio is trying to do a live service game so they can have further easy and predatory monetization. And at this point, I'm glad that Highguard failed. It gave them a reality check, and it doesn't matter if you, the developer, or the company thinks the game is good. You absolutely need to check in with your community and the gamers and see if it's actually good. Get some feedback on that. And also, I'm glad that Concord failed and gave Sony a reality check that there's a saturated market out there and copy paste is not going to work anymore and you still need to innovate. But sadly, I think we're going to pay for this with the PlayStation 5 price hikes. And I'm going to put my tinfoil hat here and say that maybe they wanted to capitalize with this on the release of GTA 6 in November, but they did this earlier so it won't be so obvious later on. As we know, GTA 6 won't come onto PC only 1 or 2 years later, so that will increase the console purchases as well. But again, it's still Sony trying to get back their budget they lost on the failed games. And Ubisoft took a huge reality check as well, with huge layoffs, some people leaving and creating Expedition 33, which was a huge success, while as for Ubisoft, all their games are basically copy-paste reskins of previous ones. And maybe that's why it feels like resistance when it comes to Crimson Desert, not because the game is bad, but because it represents a shift. It is a reminder of what gaming used to be and what it could be again.